You know, Peter Drucker, the legendary business management consultant, is famous for his saying, begin with the end in mind. Today's show contains many gold nuggets along two tracks: the dynamics of family owned businesses and a successful exit strategy. Before I bring up my guest, Mr. Marty Kaufman, who is living the entrepreneur's dream, in parentheses, he had a huge cash buyout after 35 years of hard work as the founder and CFO of his own company, which later became a family business as he brought on his children to work with him. His wife also worked with him for a while. I would like to share with you a few fun facts about family-owned businesses, or FOBs, because I don't want to keep saying that word. These facts assume that family members, other than the founder, have some partial legal ownership in the company, which may or may not be the case. But here are the fun facts per the SBA. There are 5.5 million family-owned businesses in the US. Only 9% of them make $1 million a year. 24% of all FOBs as of today are led by women. 60% of FOBs represent 60% of the workforce, 78% of new jobs, and 64% of the gross domestic product. They are a force. The average FOB lifespan is 24 years. 82% of FOBs fail due to poor financial management. 49% of current entrepreneurs indicated they grew up in a FOB. FOB's three largest weaknesses are nepotism, complicated succession issues, and family members unprepared to take on greater leadership roles when the business needs it. Only 40% of FOBs successfully transition to the second generation. That's a big one for me. That's a shocker. Get this one. I love this. 30% of FOB owners have no plans to retire ever. The median age of a FOB owner is 51 years old. 30% indicate that they wish to retire in 12 to 15 years. In other words, they plan to live out their golden years in their office. 31% of FOB owners have no estate plan other than a will. And this one is scary. 49% of all FOBs collapse, almost a half, due to the owner's expected or unexpected death. So it's time to bring out Marty Kaufman, the star of today's show. Let's give him a round of applause. The dude made it happen. And you listened to the stats I just gave you. So Marty, thanks for coming on the show. Welcome.
Thanks, Gene. Good to be here.
Yeah, Marty, I have so many questions to ask you on behalf of my listeners, followers, and myself. You know, I read in your bio that you're a private pilot, two-time Ironman, and a motocross Grand Prix racer. Is that what it looks like when you're rich and free?
Well, I did all that before I was rich and free.
Oh, you did? Oh, you stole my thunder. Are you enjoying yourself?
I'm enjoying myself. My goal when it's hard for me to say retired, especially after the career I've had. But when I retired, my goal was to fly my airplane more, make my golf handicap go down, play my guitar, and travel. And so far, we've mostly just traveled. So, I've gotten a chance to fly the airplane a lot, and travel. We're starting to travel the world, but the guitar and the golf is much more work than I thought it would be.
Okay, so let's shift a few gears, Marty. Let's go back to your humble beginnings. What was the name of the business that you started? What does it do? When did you start it? And where did the seed of the business idea come from for your business? And if you want me to repeat those one by one, I will.
Well, if I forget to answer them, you can remind me. But
Okay.
the company's name was Accent Computer Solutions. It was founded by me and a couple of guys at General Dynamics where I worked back then. Um, I, I ended up having the ideas come from we worked in the computer support department back then, and
Okay.
to be frank, General Dynamics was moving. This was 1985, by the way, 19,
Okay.
and my division of General Dynamics was moving to Arizona at the time, and my wife and I decided I wasn't going to Arizona. So the company was going along right then, but it was a very much a, we just had extra money now and again. That's what we did. We were software development, hard to make a living doing software development back then. So at one point during that 85 period, I split from those partners and took it myself to do accounting software. That's what
Okay.
my degree is in computer information systems and accounting. So I had a good idea of how to do accounting and accounting software. So I started doing that. And when General Dynamics decided to move, it kind of made the business become my source of income because we weren't moving to Arizona. So when I told my bosses that I'm not moving to Arizona, they said, well, you're signing your resignation notice. And I said, with a big gulp, I said, okay, yeah, what I'm doing.
That
And
took some courage.
yeah, it did take some courage. We had my wife was a brand new teacher. She wasn't making any money. I wasn't making any money either, and we had one child who was born right then, so he was a baby. So it kind that's where it all started, to be frank.
Okay. And so you started Accent in 1987.
80, well, technically 85 is when it began. I went solo in 87.
Okay. So when did your children, Casey and Courtney, start to work at your business, and why did that happen?
So just a correction on that. Courtney is my daughter, and Corey is the older
Oh,
son.
I'm sorry, Corey.
Courtney's last name is Casey, so that sounds funny, right?
Okay.
Now it is.
Okay.
So my son Corey, who's now just turning 40, and Courtney, uh, Corey and Courtney both worked when they were in high school at the organization doing odd jobs.
Okay. Just to help you out, just to help dad out.
No, Corey wanted to buy a set of golf clubs, and I told him he had to work for them.
So you had to pay them in
Yeah,
some form or
paid
another.
him so that he could go buy his golf clubs. Courtney enjoyed office and filing work and things like that, so she went there. And I probably should tell the last part of that story first because it makes sense. She never left. The first day Courtney started at Accent at 12 years old, she never had another job after that. She stayed with
Okay.
full time.
Okay. Okay. So how did the employment of Corey and their official employment at Accent of Corey and Courtney impact the company culture at the time?
Well, Corey began later than Courtney because Courtney was already in and she wasn't doing marketing at the time because we didn't know we needed that. That was a long ass time ago. So, but Corey came because he worked at Enterprise Rental Car up in Walnut Creek. And, he was getting frustrated with how Enterprise was treating people. And I invited him to come in at that time. And Corey eventually worked his way through almost all the departments. Courtney, on the other hand, when she started at 12 years old and she continued through school, she got a marketing degree. And once that happened, if it hadn't been for her, and I mean, it was her and I that started the marketing. And I personally, I believed in the very beginning that you didn't have to have the best products, but you had to have the best marketing. Now that was a way to get started. Turns out we had, and we still do have really good products. But my thing was, if you don't have a marketing department, it doesn't matter how good your product is.
Right. Right.
So I paid people 6 figures earlier than Courtney. So I paid people over 100 grand back in the 90s to market, and I didn't even take a salary at that time.
Okay.
So
Okay. So in the early beginnings, then, in terms of non-family employees, there wasn't any. It was just you and Casey, your wife, doing the books occasionally. Was that it?
no, it was quite the opposite. I started the company. I had employees in the field doing tech work. I had accounting departments.
Okay.
I had all the right jobs, filled, except for, I was operating as salesperson and operations manager back then. But if we include that, Derek Wolf, who you mentioned that I was CFO, but I was the CEO. Derek ended up being the COO, who was doing the financial work, and he was with me for 22 years. So I mean, those kids came later.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
later.
Did you, and I don't mean this to be, well, let me just come out and say it.
Yeah, sure.
Did you train and manage your kids differently than others? Was it hard to be subjective, or was it just business is business, family is family?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you would, at any point during those kids' lives at Accent, I didn't treat them any different. It was the same. They weren't my kids. They were doing a job, and they had a job to do. But if you asked anybody else, they were the hardest workers too. They will always tell you that my kids didn't need extra pressure. They didn't get extra credit. They didn't get special treatment. They were the harder workers. They just were head down, smart kids doing the right thing for the company.
Which is not the usual case sometimes. A lot of times, it's like, well, my son-in-law's on the payroll, but he doesn't do anything. He's just married to my daughter. I get it. So there was no nepotism. They had to stand on their own, and they performed.
No, they did. And I heard the same thing, Gene. I've been in the business peer groups for, well, not anymore, but for 22 years, I was in the Vistage group and in groups with you even. And I would hear it all the time, he's a brother-in-law, he's not worth anything, but I got to keep him on, stuff like that. That was not our case.
Right. That was not a tough decision, and your kids accepted it. They never said, "Hey, Dad, you're just kind of being too hard on us."
No, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't think you would ever get anybody in the organization since the beginning that would ever say I was hard on anybody.
Okay.
I was the opposite of that. I took responsibility. If it wasn't going well, I would tell them what they were doing. I, learned early on to give people a chance and, try to get good leadership, and they're going to follow the way of us. And, I was leading by example at that point, and I think that they all got that. I think if you go back and even talk to those guys today, a year and a half later, they're not going to say anything but we were fair.
Right. So eventually you sold your company. I'll come back to that later. But the reason why I bring that up is that that's a guidepost that from 1987 to 2022, which is 35 years, you worked extremely hard. And whether you're a family business or not, just being in business for 35 years is a remarkable achievement. What were your success principles? How did you do that?
That's a good question. I mean, I was driven from the very beginning of my life to have my own company. And my, I guess you would call it my strategy or my mindset was I didn't really enjoy computers. I enjoyed the business of business.
Okay.
I always wanted to do business and wanted it to be a real business. I wanted to, I worked at General Dynamics, which was, at that point, 100,000 people or some crazy number. And I could just see a million things that should be being done different. And, and I thought to myself, if I ever have that opportunity, I'm not doing that at all. I am going to take care of it. So having a bachelor's in accounting and a bachelor's in computer information systems put me in a unusual position to understand business and computers. So
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that really did help me. And I was a marketing guy from day one. So you put those together, and I think that's how we did it.
Okay. So now you wrote a book, Do It Right. It's Not About the Computers. What was your main message in that book? Were there some of your guiding principles in the formative years?
Well, it's all about that. And the people will, I don't, it's the same today. Things go wrong in a company. If someone touches a computer, they think they're the computer guy. So then if you were the IT guy and something went wrong, the owners of the company will blame you. If your accounting software didn't work, if your sales CRM didn't work, if your ERP didn't work, if the wireless system doesn't work, they always just blame it on the IT guy. I was said to the people with that book, I was saying, if your accounting software is not working, it's because your accounting department's not working. If your
Mhm.
CRM software is not working, it's because your sales department's not working. They don't know what to do, so they blame it on software. They do that today. It's a computer problem is a common thread of almost all complaints. And I would say to them, can you log into the accounting software? Yeah. Can you put a debit and a credit in? Yeah. It's not a computer problem. It's an accounting department problem. And even today, to this day, owners don't understand that if they buy an ERP or a CRM, that the IT guy doesn't even need to be in the conversation.
Really
No, 100%
interesting.
not. Because everything runs on the web or on a computer these days. Why on earth does an IT guy need to help the sales department figure out how to do sales?
Yes.
It's
Okay.
it's ridiculous. At the end of the day, it's the sales department that has to own their system and make it work for themselves. IT people turn it on, and if you can log into it, they're done. Now, if you need a CRM consultant, someone who understands the CRM software, you should hire that guy. That's never the IT guy. If you need an
Okay.
accounting software consultant or an operations consultant, hire them. That's never the IT guy. That's the whole book right there.
Okay. Okay. Got it. All right. So ultimately, you're going to sell your business in 2022. When and why did you start thinking about selling your business?
That's another great question. I was one of those guys that your intro said. I wasn't planning to work until I died in my desk, but I wasn't planning to sell either. My goal was to technically sell the business to the kids.
Okay.
I've had several professional guys that I know that have done that the right way, and I just thought that would work. What would happen is you give them a deal on the company, they go to the bank and they get some money, puts them in an accountability position, right? You don't want to just be paying dad. At the point
Right.
where they're paying dad, they think they can miss a payment, right? So
Right.
I say you go to the bank. We talked about it a lot during our exit planning, was that you would go to the bank and get some money. I would carry some of it, and you guys would take it from there. Corey would be the leader. He had already planned on that.
Right.
We sat on conference room after conference room doing our planning, and we ended up saying, I said to Corey one day, I said, if a deal comes along that we can't resist, then whenever that happens, we will look at it. But until then, you're taking over. And if that's what you want, and you didn't have to, I never made him do that, because we were on the rocket fuel plan for business management. So we were doing all of the right every quarter we were doing management. We'd have consultants come in and help us do planning. We were all there. And always the thing comes along, what's your exit strategy? And I said the same exact
Yes.
all along. I just said the same thing. So if I back up 10 years before that, we joined a peer group for IT guys. And the IT guys we joined were only companies of our size.
Okay.
Very difficult to find, by the way, because we were 80 employees when I sold, and the typical IT firm is 6 to 10. And
Okay.
when you're trying to get in a group, I've been in peer groups my whole career, and I was always one of the larger or the largest member of the group. And I enjoyed the crap out of it because I could help these guys. It's not a competition. You know, there's more business in California and the world than anybody can do. So who cares? I'll help them. But what I didn't get out of those groups is I didn't get much help. we were the big guy. And we had our ducks in a row. So 8 years, about now it'd be 10 years ago, I joined a group that was our size. And at one point during that conversation, maybe 5 years into that group, one of the guys was a big, big picture thinker. And he said, what if somebody bought us all and we could be turned into this, mega IT organization, and, everybody would make 10x and all these numbers, and, we all kind of laughed, but it stays in the back of your mind when that comes up.
Sure.
So, I went back and talked to Corey and I said, if that comes about, that's probably the thing. That is probably the thing. And he's like, yeah, totally. That would be the thing. That would be why we would not sell to him and sell to whoever, that make this conglomeration of roll up, if you will.
So, but your kids at the time knew that if you sold to a third party, that they did not have any ownership interest in Accent at the time.
That's correct. They did not have stock because, as part of our estate plan, we were working on, how to transfer that company to them, or any stock would have been a bloody fortune for them tax-wise.
Right.
So
okay.
we just say, no, we're not going to do that now. They own no stock. So the moral, I'll finish that part of the story, and I think that'll answer your question. As I'm sitting there, I said, we're going to end up, if this happens, there's going to be a great opportunity for you guys as far as our estate goes. So we'll talk about that after what ended up happening next, if you want.
Okay. So did the issue come up that, well, hey, Dad, if you sell to a third party company, what about our jobs? What if they don't want to keep us? Would you make that a condition of your sale? Or is that the new owner's call?
Yeah, if you want to talk about the sale, I'll tell you what happened. What happened was 3 or 5 years went by, I can't remember exactly, and nothing came of that situation that the guy talked about. But what did happen, one of those gentlemen sold to private equity 50% of his organization. He became the base company.
Okay.
So now it was a private equity roll-up, which wasn't what they were talking about in the beginning. Now those guys the company is called Nautic. Nautic is the private equity group that ended up providing the money. The company I sold to is VC3.
Right.
So what ends up happening at that point, VC3, knowing me and Corey for 10 years, said, we want you guys. What you have is Courtney, who is a marketing genius, and you have Corey, who is one of the best operators we've ever seen. We want you guys. And if they hadn't said that, I wasn't in. It would have been.
Really? Okay.
No.
So because you were concerned about your kids. I don't want my kids thrown on the street. I mean, they deserve to be here and work hard. They've worked hard for where they are.
Well, 100%. And it to this day, I hope I made the right decision, because what ended up happening, I was not able I'm not sure for sure, I know you're doing loan doctor stuff, but you're a financial guy, so you'll understand that I had this really weird position where my kids had no equity in Accent, but I wanted them to have equity in the new co.
Right.
So now I had to sell. So they basically had to give me the money, not my kids, right?
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing was I did part of my estate plan right then and there. I negotiated it's really going to be called phantom stock. But what I did is I had to carry 30% of this transaction in there. I had to reinvest, basically. I had to reinvest. That was a condition of sale.
Okay.
30%. So what I did at that point is I took a large amount of that money, and I said, I want you guys to convert that money to phantom stock with the same rights as Class A premium shares. And the attorneys went after that for months, but they did it. So my kids now have a stake in Nuco.
Got it. So was there any other suitors other than VC3 that you had talked to?
Nope.
Okay.
I wasn't planning on selling.
Right.
And not only that, to be honest with you, I could tell, knowing what I knew about those guys and what they knew about me, we're sharing financials for 10 years. They know who I am, what I'm about. They know my company inside and out. I know their company inside and out. The multiples were so high, and we demanded those multiples because of the kind of company we were and what we had that they didn't have.
Right.
We had things they just didn't have and they were going to pay extra for.
Got it. So, so let's assume that your kids could have arranged the financing and they would buy the company, and now they're the owners. You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to,
Sure.
in the interest of family
Right.
communications. Do you think they had the wherewithal in terms of executive ability to pull it off and be the new owners? Or maybe with the proviso that you stay on as a part-time consultant on the payroll or whatever. Would they have the stuff to do it?
Well, I think that Courtney, Corey, and Derek together, who was my longtime COO, could most definitely have done it.
Okay. Okay. That's a big point.
But what
'Cause
I believe was that it was better for them to go this route with the reinvestment of the money, because Derek had some stock too. So I negotiated for those three people to have a portion of that 30% to roll over into Newco, that we don't know what that'll be worth someday. They're growing like crazy even now.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I get it. You know, I had a gentleman that is a exit strategy specialist about a year ago, and he said, I forget the statistic, but it was really low. I think he said only 20% of all owners who intend to sell their company actually are able to accomplish that.
Oh, yeah.
Or without a garbage, a garage sale. I mean,
Fire sale.
a fire sale. I mean, they're not taking a tremendous discount. They're getting what they want. So, so as you look back, any second thoughts? Wish I had done this way. What would you have done? Or are you perfectly happy with how things worked out? And it wasn't luck, because I can tell talking to you, there's a lot of preparation and due diligence on your part.
Oh, there was a lot. I don't have any regrets in doing the deal, period. I don't have any regrets of the price. The price was good. They've done everything they said they're going to do. I got my, you had to do a 10% holdback. I got that. I had a small little earn out. I got that. I still have the 30% that's reinvested. I have no doubt that we're going to get that. Now, the statistic that I've heard, and this is what I was living by, was don't plan on ever getting the 30%. If you can't live on the 70%, don't sell. Because I have watched actually another couple of my really good friends sell and never get back that reinvestment because company tanks or something.
Yeah, gotcha.
But this company is now, 150 million with 700 employees, and they built that from zero just by acquisition and buying me and buying my other friends and all this good stuff. 100 employees at a time,
Yeah.
stuff happening. So I have no doubt that my stock is going to have value. I don't know if it'll be 10 times because, with the PE world here, we got with interest rates so high, that could change what happens with the value of private equity when you go into
Right.
it. They got to
Right.
borrow their money too, So I again, maybe it won't be 10x, maybe it won't be 5x, but I know I'm going to get it back plus, and I know my kids are going to get theirs whenever they decide to get it. And they don't, by the way, that deal doesn't say they have to get it on the next turn of that PE. They're allowed to roll it over as many times as they want. So if they choose to take it out, let's say they sold next year or the year after, well, they might not get as much, right?
Right.
They take
I
the
got
risk
you.
off the table.
Yeah, no, I get you. So, so we're getting close to ending the show, Marty. Let's assume that you're a young entrepreneur who's listening in, and maybe there's family that works with the business, maybe there doesn't. Is there some takeaways or pearls of wisdom you'd like to share with them, since now you have walked the path that they're trying to walk?
Yeah,
What is your pearl of wisdom for them?
I think I have a couple. The one that I always got involved with early was some sort of management system for the group, for the company. EOS is what we ended on at the very last. And that's where rocket fuel and all that stuff comes from. A management system changes your company from a lifestyle business to a real business.
Could you be more specific on the management system? What does
Yeah.
it do?
Well,
How do you break it apart?
I got you. Well, anytime you generally early in your career, you'll sit down, maybe you sit down in a room and plan, maybe you don't. What I understand is most entrepreneurs don't really do that, but I always did. I would always go away for 2 or 3 days with Derek and I would write a 1 year plan, a 5 year plan, and a quarterly plan for the next year.
You are a rare bird.
We did it every year, and I did that from gosh, I think I might have the first one I wrote, which was probably in, 88 or something.
That's amazing.
But that's the number one nugget, is to have a management plan that works like that, and follow it, because most entrepreneurs are using it for lifestyle and they're not running it like it's supposed to be sold. And I say when you run your business to be sold, I would have started earlier running it as if it was for sale.
Okay, so that's pearl wisdom number one. What's the second one?
Yeah, the other one is, if this was a bigger business, the financial brain that I didn't have early on, I'm not sure that I would have kept 100% of accent all the way through had I understood the time value and the potential equity value that would be to go into, say, find a private equity group that would fund me 30% or something. I could build that business so much faster, and a bigger number on a smaller percentage is still a giant number.
Yes. Okay. So you opted sort of the organic cash flow, as I'll go as I create the cash needed to expand.
Yeah, but when I look at my buddy who did it, 8 years before before they bought us, he just kept taking bites of that apple multiple times, because he sell a little bit here, sell a little bit there. Next thing you know, he's got a very small percentage of VC3, but a giant the giant organization. So,
yeah, I got you. I got you.
I would have done that earlier if I could. Now, I'm not saying it's not good for every entrepreneur, because I wanted to own 100% of Accent. I never wanted anyone else to own it. But now
okay, so I understand. That makes sense. So you're a pilot, you're a motocross, Grand Prix. What do you have any side gigs, Marty?
Financial ones?
Anything? I guess financial.
Well, not financially. I still have a contract to help VC3 with mergers and acquisitions.
Okay. Okay. So that was my next question. Do you have any other capacity with Accent in any form or fashion?
I have no official capacity in anything. I'm a consultant that if I find a deal, I would get paid if I found a deal for them.
That's not bad. Okay.
No. And I am still a consultant, an unpaid consultant for them. Every time they bring an acquisition in, they send them to talk to me.
Got it.
They want them to hear the story, because even if they don't have kids, or if they do have kids, it's a unique story. So that's what I do. No, what I'm doing on the side gigs is, when you say the word gig, I have a studio where I have, we record music. So it's
okay.
That's what I do now. I'm trying to play golf and record music.
Yeah. You have anything with Taylor Swift?
No, except for I get to see her in the box when the Chiefs play.
Well, Marty, you've done well. What would your parents think of you today?
I think they'd be okay. They're both gone, but I'm telling you, my dad was my greatest fan, and he would have been fine with it.
Was he an entrepreneur?
No, he's an Air Force guy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're the envy of all of the young budding entrepreneurs. They're saying, God, if I could build this sucker up and then sell it and then take all that cash and sail around the world, I'd be happy. But you got to put the work in the trenches first, right?
I worked my butt off. I was I had the most hours of anybody for a long time, you know. However, to be really, as an entrepreneur, and you get later and you plan for it to sell, I didn't work harder than anyone at the end. I just was working on the right things.
Right.
Strategy.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, that's a wrap, Marty. Thank you so much. It's just, I mean, you don't sound to me like a conceited guy, but what you've done is amazing.
No, thank you.
So you can pat yourself on the back. And I would say maybe you might agree with me, your greatest accomplishments are not your business interests, but having two well-adjusted kids and four grandkids.
Five.
Five grandkids.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I personally, I don't believe any of this was me. I believe that God has his plan and I'm part of it. And I give the glory to him for what's gone down because I prayed a lot during those 35 years.
Yeah, it's a highly underrated skill that's necessary to climb that corporate ladder.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Marty. Good luck to you. Hope to see you again. You're looking well. And yeah, it'd be nice to have a lifestyle like that.
Thank you.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Okay, listeners, hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, tell a friend. What a wonderful story. All my shows are available on my YouTube channel or the normal podcasts such as Apple, Google, and Spotify. You can also visit me on my website, and I will be talking to you in 2 weeks. Peace and out.